Today we're going to talk about the first men and the Andals that settled in Dorne. If you want more back history about the first men, you can watch our Dawn Age video. After the first men came to Dorne via the Arm of Dorne, they began to settle throughout Westeros. But some first men decided to stay in Dorne. The first men that settled the east coast of Dorne would eventually be known as Salty Dornishmen. The first men that settled the deserts of Dorne would become known as the Sandy Dornishmen. And the first men that settled in or around the mountains of Dorne became known as the Stony Dornishmen. However, as these people settled throughout Dorne, distance and difficulty of travel isolated these pockets of settlements from each other. This isolation from each other made for the rise of petty lords, who began to stylize themselves as kings. And although petty kings did exist throughout Westeros before Aegon the Conqueror united the Seven Kingdoms, there were never so many as the petty Dornish kings under the first men. Most of these petty kings had ridiculously small kingdoms, and their expansions and conquests usually failed pretty quickly. However, some lines did persevere, and are still around in Dorne thousands of years later. And these first men kingdoms are the ones that we're going to talk about briefly. Starting with one of my favorite, House Dane. House Dane raised a castle on an island at the mouth of the Torrentine River, where the river broadens to join with the sea. And if you believe the legends, the first Dane found the site when he followed the tracks of a fallen star, and there found a stone of magical powers. And House Dane kinda has a thing for falling stars, in case you haven't noticed. But for centuries afterwards, the descendants of that Dane would rule over the western mountains of Dorne as the kings of the Torrentine and lords of Starfall. Next, House Faller, who carved their seat Skyreach into the stony slopes overlooking the mountain pass that provided the easiest and shortest passage from Dorne to the Reach. House Faller's house seat featured high stone towers and a perch overlooking the Wide Way, in current Westeros time known as the Prince's Pass. Because of this lofty perch, House Faller took the titles Lords of Skyreach, Lords of the Wide Way, and Kings of Stone and Sky. The next house we're going to talk about has caused a little bit of tension between different people on how exactly it's pronounced. You can pronounce it Ironwood, you can pronounce it Ironwood, you can pronounce it Ironwood. It doesn't matter, it's pronounced differently from different audiobooks, and depending on who you talk to, there is no one right way. You can argue your way if you want, but it really doesn't matter. So today I am going to pronounce it House Ironwood. So further east where the mountains join the Sea of Dorne, House Ironwood took control of the second of two great passes in Dorne, the Stone Way, a treacherous, narrow pass. Here they made their home in the high valleys and green foothills of the mountain. This location had fertile lands, valuable deposits of iron, tin, silver, and timber, and these resources made House Ironwood the most powerful of the Dornish kings. They would eventually rule from the mountain domains of House Will to the headwater of the Green Blood, and they stylized themselves the Blood Royals, Lords of the Stoneway, Master of the Green Hills, and Kings of Dorne. Despite this power, though, House Ironwood were seldom able to control the other Dornish kings. Next, and by far the most interesting castle or domain to rise from the settlement of the first men was the great wooden moat and bailey castle on the south bank of the Green Wood near Lemonwood. This area wasn't ruled by one family. Whenever a king died, an election would be held from the dozen or so noble families that settled along the river or the eastern shore of the Summer Sea. Some of the families involved in this whole election process were the Wades, Brownhills, Lakes, Hulls, Brooks, Holts, Briars, and Shells. And despite the system being amazing and so unique to Westeros electing your king, it unfortunately would fail when a dispute broke out after an election, which caused the royal houses to start warring with each other. After a generation, 3 of the houses were wiped out, and the river realm split into a dozen petty kingdoms, all vying for power and control. So it was pretty neat while it lasted. The Fallers, Danes, and Ironwoods would hold a power and prestige few other small kingdoms and the first men would reach in Dorne. Now let's talk about the Andals in Dorne. The Andals had less of an impact on Dorne than the other areas in Westeros, particularly the areas south of the Neck. The Andals, being seafarers, mostly stuck to greener lands that were closer to their initial invasion point, and didn't really want to mess with the coast of Dorne that were well known for their snakes, scorpions, and burning sands. However, some Andals did brave Dorne, and they fought with the first men settlements along the Greenblood or coast where the land was more welcoming, trying to control their kingdoms and areas. Other Andals found new places in Dorne to settle that the first men had not even thought to touch yet. The best examples of these Andal houses that settled new areas of Dorne are the Ullers, Corgyles, Vaths, Alarians, the Jordanes, and Santagars. The Ullers raised a stinking seat beside the sulphurous yellow waters of the Brimstone. The Corgyles found and fortified the only well for 50 leagues around in the deep sands. The Vaths built a castle where 2 streams connected to form a river that shortly after was named after them. The Alarians, Jordanes, and Santagars also carved out their own seats. Finally, the last Andal house we're going to talk about are the Martells, who didn't choose to settle new lands in Dorne, but fight House Wade and House Shell for controls of the land between the Broken Arm and the Greenblood. The Andal that led this attack on the 2 First Men kingdoms was Morgan Martell. He would defeat both House Shell and House Wade in battle, burn their castles, take their villages, and establish control over the strip of stony coastlands 50 leagues long and 10 leagues wide. House Martell would also be set apart from the rest of the kingdoms, though they bent the knee at times to other houses that surrounded them, and the Martells pre-Nymeria were never considered the most powerful in the country. They did have a slow, cautious nature that helped in building power and staying in control of their territory. When Nymeria came with her people, that would all change and the Martells would rise to rule Dorne from their seat in Sunspear, which we will talk about in a separate video. So join us every Sunday and Wednesday for new Game of Thrones content. Most, if not all, of July will be Dorne history, and then we'll move on to a new territory. Also, if you're looking for quick, bite-sized geek lore and history, check out Quick Lore, who has a lot of great videos, including ones on Game of Thrones.
Giveaway announcement. The first giveaway is for one of these posters. Unfortunately, this artist only drew 3 of the Westeros houses, so hopefully you like Lannister, Targaryens, or Starks. If this isn't your style, don't worry, we'll be doing different poster giveaways in the future along with different Game of Thrones related items. This giveaway will go from Sunday, June 28th to Saturday, July 4th. All you have to do to enter is write a comment on any video published between those dates, and on July 6th, I will randomly select a comment and message that person. If you don't want to enter the giveaway but want to leave a comment on a video, don't worry. If I pick you, you can just say you'll pass and I'll pick the next person. This giveaway is international, but I can't provide tracking to any international packages, and international shipping can take anywhere from a week to a month plus. So you may have a long wait if you are an international winner. This giveaway is also for just one poster, so if you win, you just say which house you want, and then in 2 weeks we'll do another giveaway and the next person picks which house they want, and so forth until we run out of these posters. So thanks for watching.